Ladies and gentlemen, if you can move forward, we have the front row empty. You are too overawed by his presence, I think. So without much further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Frank Peter here. But before I do, I would like to thank Mr. Jamil Sanjua. A round of applause for him, please. And his team, who have been instrumental in getting us such good speakers for our talks. So the format of the talk would be that it would be about 45 minutes to 50 minutes of talk by Dr. Frank Peters, and then we will have another 15 minutes interactive session before we break for tea. So before you put up the questions, we will have a moderator who will pass on the mic. Do we have the mic? Yeah. We'll have so please introduce yourself before asking the question. And Dr. Peter Frank would be here to give a brief introduction about himself and, of course, about the topic today. Dr. Peter Frank.
Thank you very much for the very kind introduction. Yeah, so my name is Frank. It's sometimes called Peter, so it's actually Frank Peter. But I know I have this for all my life because I don't really have a proper last name. It's all whatever sounds like first name. I'm very glad. This is really a nice large crowd. I really appreciate that you made the effort and took the time to join me here. I want to give you just some thoughts on digital marketing trends for 2019 and beyond. Before I do this, can I change the setting, the colors, the color setting? This is too bright, cannot read it. The color setting must be a setting. Well, maybe we have to make use of that. It's difficult to read because with that setting there's not much contrast. But the good news is you can have the slides. So that's not proprietary. You can have the slides. On the last part, I'll show you how to do. So you don't have to. If you want, you can take pictures of it, but you don't have to. If somebody takes a picture, I'm going to be in it. Otherwise, my hair is okay. So you can have the slides later on for your own reference. All right, so for the next 273 slides, I will talk about digital marketing trends for 2019 and beyond. Just some thoughts of what I think is going to happen in the digital marketing world. Before I do this, that's me, without glasses, a bit younger, a bit more hair. I'm from Germany. I'm a German national, but I've been living in Singapore, Singapore and Malaysia for the last 25 years, so Southeast Asia for 25 years. In Malaysia now for about 10 years. So I've been acclimatized to the southern Asian part. I'm a certified Google educator, so certified by Google itself. I'm also certified by a number of government agencies, Singapore and Malaysia. I work with a number of products. I'm an associate faculty with one of the public universities in Malaysia, the Graduate Business School, and I'm an industry advisor for one of the private universities there. Actually, now I have an appointment with the Netherlands University. If you want to know more about me, so I don't want to yell too much, I'm active on LinkedIn. If you have a LinkedIn account, please feel free to connect. I'd be more than happy to share my thoughts with you there as well. I'm relatively active there. LinkedIn is a very important platform for me, a social platform. I would not be here without LinkedIn. So I was approached a while ago by Aptara. They have found me on LinkedIn. I thought that might be worthwhile to give me a try, and that's the reason why I'm now here. So LinkedIn, social media can be a very useful, profitable way of getting word about yourself and product out into the world. So what I'm going to share with you is some thoughts, quite relaxed, about 10 trends to innovate your marketing strategy for 2019 and beyond. Just some things that I think are going to happen now and in the near future that might be of interest to you. But before I do this, I'm going to tell you a little story. I call it the vitamin C story. It's not necessarily about me. It's just something that you may have experienced in one way or another. So I call this the vitamin C story because I built it around vitamin C. So let's say you are regular users of vitamin C for some reason. Maybe you think it's worthwhile. And the normal way of you procuring your vitamin C is by simply going to a drugstore or a pharmacy once a month. You get your 30 tablet supply, one a day, and then you take that home. So sometimes, you go to the mall, buy your 30 pack of vitamin C, take it from the shelf, go to the counter, pay for it, walk out, and that's it. Sometimes you forget, maybe you forget to go to the mall, so you don't have any. Sometimes the shop in the mall, the retail pharmacy, may not have any in stock, so then you don't take any. So at some point, that's going to be, it's not satisfactory to you, and you think, well, I'm going to buy my vitamin C online. So rather than doing traditional retail, you think I'm going to do this online. So like everybody, you would go to Google, you would type in, I don't know, vitamin C or vitamin C retail or buy vitamin C or something like that. Websites will come up, and then you choose one, an online pharmacy, and you search for your vitamin C there. So you find it, you put it in your shopping cart, you check out. But before you check out, you also look for maybe some joint cream. Maybe sometimes you have a bit of knee pain. For me, sometimes it happens because I'm on my legs pretty much all day, so a bit of knee pain. So I may go and look for some joint cream, but I don't buy it. So I just look at it. Then I go check out. So I put my vitamin C, that's already in the shopping cart. I check out, I pay, and a few days later, it's going to be delivered to me. Now, what happened in the background? What nobody has seen is that the online commerce machine learning platform has kicked in, something that nobody can see from the obvious interface there. Because after a few days, I will get a WhatsApp message inviting me to a free presentation on how to care for your needs. That is because I have looked at a particular product, and the e-commerce website has taken note of that in the back end. So because when I checked out, I had to give my phone number, I've received the WhatsApp message with that information. So I may or may not go to that particular talk. So that is a value add. Then after 25 days, I will get an email. Frank, your vitamin C is about to run out. 30-day supply, so 25 days. Your vitamin C is about to run out. Would you like to buy some more? And then, oh yeah, good idea, I should. So a number of things have kicked in that improve my experience with the online retailer. First of all, I get a reminder to stock up, so I don't forget this like I did in the retail pharmacy. The other thing is that I get invited to something that is also important to me for my joint pain. So those are value adds that come in. And that is something that a traditional retail pharmacy cannot provide. So unless I remember somewhere, the experience in a traditional retail pharmacy is just you go in, you take your stuff, you pay, you go out. For online, it's a lot more convenient. There's more customer service that comes with it, and highly personalized service. Yeah, so I get something that is specific for me. I get the invitation to the joint talk. I get the invitation to please buy more so you don't forget it. So that is one of the advantages of online versus offline. The other thing that helps for online retailers is something that is also invisible. Now, using machine learning, for example, and in Malaysia, I don't know if you have this here, but in Malaysia we have floods during monsoon season. And for a pharmacy, they stock up charcoal tablets during flood season. That's because of hygiene issues, people may get diarrhea, and they'll take charcoal tablets, and quite a lot. So some pharmacies, retail pharmacies, would have to buy the stock in advance, put it somewhere, and wait for monsoon to start for the flooding. Online retailers don't do this. Online retailers use machine learning algorithms to predict weather patterns. So nowadays you can hook up your machine learning algorithms to, let's say, the Weather Channel and look at weather patterns. They can then predict when the monsoon is going to start. And the AI then once it predicts when the monsoon starts, can automatically order charcoal tablets from the warehouse, from the wholesaler. And it will then be delivered just in time for the use, so you don't have the storage problems with that. So again, that is an advantage of online versus offline. So those are some retail trends that I will refer back to when I talk about the 10 things that I think are changing in the digital world. So it's part of the digital transformation. Yeah, so you transform the traditional retail chain into something that is much more customer-centric. I do a lot of training on digital transformation as well. Digital transformation is really going from a traditional concept, like what I mentioned for the retail pharmacy, into something that is digitally improved. So I still get the same product, but as a consumer, I will get the product cheaper if I buy it online, and I have a much better customer experience. And customer experience is really the driving force behind the digital transformation efforts. The digital part is just an enabler to it. So that is the digital trend that will really take hold over the next 5-10 years. It's already started in a number of ways. So it will lead to an increase of productivity. I mentioned earlier that the machine learning algorithm will look at the weather pattern and will only order on time, so you have less storage cost. You don't have to have a human ordering the charcoal tablets from a supplier. This is all done by the machine. In terms of digital transformation, I couldn't get any numbers for Pakistan, but for Malaysia, it's expected that within just a couple of years, digital transformation will contribute another $10 billion to the economy itself. Now, Malaysia has 30 million people. Pakistan is over 200 million people. So there's certainly a lot of room for growth. In terms of other trends, and that is more now on the digital marketing part, mobile web traffic is something that is vastly increasing. Now, more and more people use their mobile device to access the web. We talked about this in the morning. There are two ways of how people use mobile devices. One is for research purposes. So if somebody has a question, wants to find something, does a search, most people will do this on a mobile device. So according to Google, more than 70% of all searches originate from a mobile device first. That is for research purposes. The decision to buy may also come from a mobile device, but the purchase itself, in many cases, is not done through mobile. It is done through traditional desktop or laptop. So the conversions are not quite there yet. Here you can see the growth in mobile web traffic. And what is quite obvious is that Pakistan has a lot of room to grow. These are changes from 2018 to 2019, specifically January 2018 to January 2019. This report, I have a link later in my slides to this report. It's free to download. It gives you digital trends in Pakistan. Actually, there are trends all over the world, but Pakistan is one of the countries that is a big report. So there's an increase, a vast increase in mobile web traffic. So you as marketers have to be aware of this. So if you just go for traditional channels, like just buying whatever programmatic or any web advertising, you may not reach the right people at the right time. If it's for conversions, maybe, but most of the decision making is done through mobile devices. So websites, advertising strategies, everything has to be aligned with that mobile first strategy. Now, in terms of conversions, that's not really happening yet. And one of the reasons, or a number of those reasons, are most websites are loading too slow. So if your website or your client's websites are outdated, have lots of pages on it, and it takes forever to load, then they're not going to be mobile friendly. You will alienate people. What I mean is, now if somebody goes to your website on their mobile phone, they type in your URL, click go, and then all they see is that little circle that goes and goes and goes, and please wait, and wait some more. Nobody's willing to wait. The waiting periods or the patience time that people have for a page to load is also decreasing. It used to be 10 seconds just a couple of years back. Nowadays, Google expects a web page to load in milliseconds, not more than that, milliseconds, so with a snap. However, Google says for a normal website, for a standard website, in average, it takes 22 seconds to load. So for 22 seconds, you have to look at that little circle. Super annoying. So if your website or your client's website is slow and your competitor's website is fast, guess where people will go? The other thing for mobile websites is difficult in handling. I've seen this a lot. When the buttons are too close together. If you have fat fingers like me, and you press a button, you automatically also press another button at the same time. So that is not very user-friendly. That would also put people off. Also something to consider. In terms of the lack of conversions, so purchases or signing up for something, that plays part of this as well with the content layout. It's difficult to type in a font on a mobile phone, at least for the older generation. Younger generation might be a bit better. Another thing that holds people back using a mobile phone is security issues. They are worried that their data may be stolen or it's not safe. But that is not true. There is no difference between traffic that comes from a laptop, let's say for online banking, versus traffic that comes from a mobile phone. Both have exactly the same safety and security that comes with it. It's just mobile phones are perceived to be less safe and less secure. So there's education, some education still to be done. Okay, customer life cycle has changed as well. And for marketers, that's an important part to also consider. Now, customer life cycle used to be you create awareness by some channels, and then people will convert. They will buy something, or sign up for a lead generation form, or sign up for some other interest form. And that's it. Job done. We got our conversion, we got our money, everybody's happy, client is happy. But that's not enough nowadays. Nowadays, you want to have more than that. And preferably, you want to have more from the same person. So you want somebody who purchased your stuff to come back and purchase more over time. So being repeat customers. Now, the only way to do this is to keep your current customers engaged. You have to keep them happy so they don't forget you. And there are different ways of doing that. One is to show them specific advertisements. Now, for customers to have come to your website before, you can retarget to them. So people who have come, like Amazon does, so if you go to Amazon and you look at the camera on their shoes, and you don't buy it, then these shoes will follow you wherever you go, or the camera will follow you wherever you go. So that is one way of remarketing for people who have not purchased. For people who have purchased, you already have their information, so you can gently nudge them over time to purchase something. So it's the retargeting, the remarketing that is a trend that is continuing. Social media also play a big role in that. If you have a solid social media presence, then you can invite your customers to become your fans or your followers. If you treat them well, if they like their product, those fans will become advocates. Yeah, so they will promote your product on your behalf without you having to go out and say, come to me, buy my product, ours is the best in the world. Nobody will believe that because that obviously is an advertisement. But if somebody else says, well, I tried Frank's product and it's really good, everybody's going to believe that. That again is a way of remarketing or retargeting customers to get more business out of the same people. So that is a trend that is going on and will certainly accelerate over time. Your social proof that comes with product purchases over time. It also leads to automation. Now, I mentioned the retargeting part. You don't have to collect email addresses based on that. Now, this is simply done by user IDs through different mechanisms, let's say to Google Ads and others, where you can retarget people without you actually having to do anything. You can do automated email retargeting or email marketing. Now, for example, what I mentioned earlier in my vitamin C example, I've purchased the vitamin C, and after 25 days, I get an email. Now, Frank, would you like to buy another set, another stock of your vitamin C? The pharmacy could add in some other products that I might be interested in. Like, by the way, we have a special on some joint cream. This can all be automated. It's no longer the case that you make one email as a marketer and send it out to everybody on your list. That is not personalized. Where the trend is going is that you have to automate your email procedures and send out very specific emails, very specific content, just to very select people. So if you have 100 different customers who bought 100 different products in the past, you can actually set up a system where you send out 100 different emails, all fully automated. That will give email content to people who are ready to purchase what you have at the right time. So that I see as an important trend. I mentioned personalization just now. So it is to provide as personalized service as possible for potential customers by showing them something that is specific for them. I mentioned this earlier with the joint cream that I have. But based on buying behavior, buying patterns, especially on digital, on e-commerce websites, or a digital environment, it is very easy to track individual users, especially if you have some login function that people have to have an account. But that way, you can then provide very highly customized service. You can't do this manually, so that has to be automated as well. But let's say I have purchased my vitamin C on the online, in the e-commerce store. Next time I go there, the store normally asks me to log in, so they already have a record. Once I have logged in, I have a record of what I have purchased in the past. So their algorithm can make a prediction what I will require in the future. So they can offer me that as other people who bought this also have purchased that, or you may also be interested in this. You may have seen this with some of the websites. Amazon does this very effectively. So that is also a trend. It's highly personalized marketing that will increase your revenue because you can provide products or services that people are specifically interested in based on their past purchasing history. So it's no longer the one size fits all that is long outdated. It's really as personalized as possible. That's the one I mentioned you might also be interested in. That's part of the personalized part. That goes across multiple channels. So this will include not only your email, as I mentioned, as a personalized part, but it will also include your social media strategy and others. I mentioned the WhatsApp that I got to invite me to talk about joint problems. Free talk. Now, messenger apps are becoming more and more important. Because Pakistan has this preferred app. I believe it's WhatsApp. That's the most popular one here. So that is an important. Messenger apps in general are an important part for you to reach customers, but also for customers to reach you. Especially when you look at the younger generation, they don't like phone calls. If you ask the young ones, the youngsters, like your kids, if you have, I have a 19-year-old girl, would you prefer to call somebody or would you prefer to message? I guarantee you, all the young ones, they will say they prefer to message, to get in touch with somebody. So having a WhatsApp presence for your business is also important. So it makes it easy for people who are not comfortable to call the customer service hotline to simply message. If that's their preference, then you have to provide that avenue. The other thing is that, especially when it comes to messaging apps, people are now used to getting updates on their purchases, for example. So if I go back to e-commerce example, if I buy something online, I will get regular messages. No, your product has been shipped, your product is in transit, your product is about to be delivered. And I appreciate that, so I know what's going on, rather than being in the dark and all of a sudden the postman is on the door and says, here's your stuff. Sometimes I have to wait for it for a long time. So if I'm being updated using a messenger app, I'll be at peace. So consider this as well if you're for your marketing strategy. Now involve messaging apps to keep everybody or your stakeholders in the supply chain involved and informed. So that is a trend that is also very strong and growing. Okay. In terms of social media, so WhatsApp and all the other messenger components are social media. And that's the slide on social media profiles in Pakistan. Now what you can see, that's also important for your marketing considerations, using social or any other platforms. It's mostly the younger generation, not really surprising, but you have a huge gender divide. Although it's slowly maybe decreasing, but the divide is still there. So you have a majority of males who are active on social media compared to females. This is a report done by Hootsuite, We Are Social, the World Bank, CIA, Google, and a lot of others in the consortium. These slides come out once every 3 months, once every quarter. This slide is from January, that's the latest one, January 2019. I have a link later on to this report. These are some 50 odd slides that they provide with different demographics and different reports out of this. It's a free report. I have a link later where you can download it from. Now this is, I just mentioned this, so the integration of messaging apps is good for keeping customers informed, just to keep them happy, to keep them updated of where their purchases are, to keep them at peace. To keep customers happy, one thing is to keep them updated on their purchases, but also you got to keep them happy by engaging them. Having your customers engaged will help to make them, to convert them into advocates of your products. If you just sell them your stuff, or your clients it is, if you just tell your clients, no, just sell the stuff and it's good, then that's not enough. You get your one-time purchase. As I mentioned earlier, it's important to get repeat purchases, because the money you spend on initial customer acquisition will always be higher than to get somebody who was a customer to buy from you again. That will always be a cheaper option. So in order for this to work, you have to generate a good customer experience or a good user experience for them. So one way of doing this nowadays is through social media. So you could encourage your customers to put reviews on social media or talk about your products on social media, provided you have provided them good customer experience. They will put up good reviews or good feedback. So if they say, well, this product I bought from this and this company was good, everybody will believe it. If I say, let's say I'm the product owner, I advertise, and I say my product is the best in the world, nobody will believe it. So if I have a product, and let's say, so you would buy it, and you would post your feedback, positive feedback on Facebook. Everybody in this room who would read that feedback would believe it, even if you don't know this gentleman, have never met him. But if I say it, nobody will believe it. And you only get that social interaction or that social proof if you provide, if you encourage your current customers to engage with your company or your product. So that's an important part, that you as a marketer, you don't have to go out and say how great it is. You can engage others by providing a good service. They will then do this automatically. In terms of customer engagement, another important part to look at is to humanize your brand. What this means is, it is, especially on the social channel, it is never the company that posts or the firm. Now, the thing in social is that it is always a human-to-human interaction. So it's like a conversation. I never have a conversation with a firm or a company or the management or the admin. I always have a conversation with another individual. And the same is true for social. That's why it's called social. So it is the human-to-human interaction. So if you're active on Facebook on behalf of a client, or if you have a client that is active on Facebook and you advise, the thing is that it is never the company that posts. You have to get your client to humanize the brand. And one way of doing this is to give your social media account an actual name. Susie, John, doesn't matter, anything. Instead of admin or the firm or the company or whatever. Or the brand name is also not good. Just, you can, for Octara, for example, it could be Jason from Octara, rather than Octara itself. Then you have a more human interaction that goes with it. So once you have that human interaction, then you can be a bit more relaxed in what you bring out. So then it's not, on social media in particular, It is not corporate speak or lawyer speak that has been vetted by the com department and through all. It is really a human-to-human dialogue, and that is what you want to get. Once you have that, you grow a close bond through that engagement. Once you have a bond between whatever your fictitious social media person and your potential customer or your past customer, depends, then this customer is more likely to buy from you rather than from somebody else because you already have a personal connection or a bond with them. So another way of generating this is what's called user-generated content. That can be done through, for example, little contests. Some retailers have done this, some more effectively than others. But one retailer that I've worked with, they've done this, come to our shop, take a picture of yourself with a stranger in the shop and post it on Instagram. And then the best pictures will win a prize. That was a fashion retailer, was a huge success in terms of getting content in. Because, I don't know, this was for younger females, and at least in Malaysia, younger females like Instagram. They also like to take pictures of themselves. So they did a huge campaign where young females grabbed somebody else in the store, took a picture, and then posted it. And then somebody won a prize. The advantage of this is, once they post it, it will be shared to all their friends. They all see it. It will also project a nice experience in the store. So that enticed more people who may have not thought about this brand to actually walk into the store to experience this themselves. And of course, because all the participants already had to be in the store, they may have purchased something at that time. So that's a benefit. But user-generated content is a great way of getting engagement with your brand that you don't have to actually pay for. An important part also, that's also something we talked about during the day, of course, is data, making decisions on data. That is something that is of very much growing importance. Data are used for machine learning, and machine learning is going to be the future in decision making. Now, machine learning requires data from, let's say, your website visitors, but also from your consumers and so on. Many of you or your clients will have tons and tons of data. Everybody, for example, for banks, this morning we had a lot of banks in the audience. If you sign up for a credit card, for example, you will have to fill out very long forms. So all these data that you fill in are being collected by the bank, but not being used. So you could extract those data and then build, for example, customer profiles and use those customer profiles for personalized marketing. You can do this through online data and offline data that you collect. You could also leave the hard lifting, the heavy lifting, to Google. If you wanted to, for example, engage or use Google for advertising purposes, Google will have already tons and tons of data about your potential customers that you're trying to reach. Now, in terms of what Google knows about you, everybody, who does not have, let me ask you the other way around, who does not have any Google account? Who does not have a Gmail account? No hand goes up. So that means by default, everybody has a Gmail account. So the moment you're logged into your Gmail account, Google tracks your every move. Google looks at, or Google keeps track of what you search for. Google keeps track of which links you click, which websites you visit, which videos you watch. Do you watch them full? Do you watch them half? What pictures you look at when you go to a website, when you scroll, where you stop, which content you read in more detail. Google will read your Gmail. Google will look at your social media profiles, what you post. Google will look at the emotions that you have at that moment when you post. So if you use a smiley face under your post, Google will think that you're in happy mode, so it will show you ads for happy people. If you use a sad emoji, then Google will show you ads for sad people. Google will keep track of everything that you do, including where you are, in terms of location, where your house is, what your house looks like, Google Street View, and so on. So Google knows that about everybody. So does Facebook, by the way, but not to the full extent. So Google, you can then engage Google, for example, to make use of these data. Now, Google has a ton of data. You can tell Google, okay, I want to reach people who are from a certain demographics, from a certain area, who have this and this interest, have that in their browsing behavior, that in their pattern, and then show ads specifically to those people. So that will take away some of your hard work, and then you show an advertisement only to a segment of people that you have identified as being most receptive to your products or services. That is the total opposite of having a billboard by the roadside that everybody sees. Both have their point, both have their place in marketing, but if you want to be on a budget and if you want to be super specific, then highly targeted digital channel is probably a better way of going forward, even if it's just for awareness creation. So data, as Jack Ma pointed out, Jack Ma from Alibaba, data is the new currency. So it's important for you and your clients to collect as many data as possible about your customers, so you can use those data to mine it and to provide highly personalized service to everybody. Working? Battery. Augmented reality. I'm still not fully sure about it, but augmented reality is also something that takes place at breakneck speed. Will it be sustainable? I'm not sure. But this is an example of augmented reality. So if somebody goes to a hairdresser, they can scan their face, and then the hairdresser's interface, this simple interface, will overlay different hairstyles. This is 15 years ago or even more. So this is already quite old. That is a very simple form of augmented reality. Nowadays, Amazon does this, IKEA does it, and some other retailers. You can choose any product in their online catalog and predict and put it over your own living room. So you just choose a particular product, like the vase, for example, and then you just point your phone over your living room table. This is the table in the actual house, and this is projected over it. So you can make a decision, if I buy this, will it actually fit? Will the colors fit? Before you make a purchase decision. There are a number of reasons for it. First of all, it is very easy for people to figure out, should I buy this or not? If it fits here, most likely it will fit in real life. But from an e-commerce provider, the advantage is also a reduced number of returns. So everybody talks about success of e-commerce and how it will revolutionize everything. Actually, it's not all as rosy as it sounds. While e-commerce is fast growing, from a e-commerce retailer's point of view, you get about 30% return of all purchases that take place. So return rate of 30% and more is not unusual. So from an e-tailer's point of view, this is not very profitable because you have to pay for return shipping, you have the hassle of restocking, of refunding, and so on. So that percentage is so high that augmented reality may be able to reduce it by showing people what it will look like in the end if they buy it. If it doesn't look nice here, they may not buy it. And this is still better than they ordering it, figuring out, no, this doesn't fit, and then returning it. So that's where I see the future of augmented reality. So people can make an informed decision without actually purchasing it. That should reduce the cost. Micro moments is also an important part. It used to be that people thought about the purchase for a while, because they had to make an effort to go to a retail store. So they think about it, they may do some research, and then they make a decision to buy it. Nowadays it's slightly different. Now, you want to get products into people's hands at different times, at different times and different places where they might be interested in it. So you can interrupt them with all kinds of things that they're currently doing, activities that they're involved in. For example, if they're engaged, for example, on a mobile device and learn something, you can provide additional information during that process. So that goes into the personalized marketing. So you can basically interrupt people while they're doing different things online. and then get them at that right moment. And last but not least, there is a trend that is also going on, the pansexual marketing. So there's no longer a discrimination between marketing to males and marketing to females. This is one example of how it should not be done. So then there's a retailer, online retailer, selling school shoes for girls and for boys. Now, they cost the same thing, more or less, but the girls' school shoe is called Dolly Bay, and the boys' school shoe is called Leader Play. So that implies that for girls, it's good enough to be pretty princess, and for boys, they can be leaders. So that is highly discriminatory, and that is something that is dying out. Another example for this is, I'm not sure if you have this here, in terms of the commercials, but Snickers, at least in Malaysia, we have Snickers commercials that are also highly sexual, or highly discriminatory, I would say. The way this works is you have a football field, and in the goal is this Chinese princess, and as a goalkeeper. And the other players, they kick a ball at her, and she just goes, oh, like a princess. And then the comment goes something like that: if you're not you when you're hungry. So somebody gives that princess a Snickers, bites on it, and then it becomes that macho goalkeeper. So that is also highly sexist. Snickers got a lot of crap for that, but they didn't really care, because interestingly for Snickers, at least in Malaysia, their main market is male. So they don't really care if they alienate females. But certainly that pansexual marketing, where this non-discriminatory marketing, there is also something that's on the rise and should be considered when you devise your marketing strategies. So that sums up my 10 points, my 10 trends that I think about are going to happen. These are some of the resources that I've shown. So digital in Asia, digital in Pakistan. You can have these slides, so you can also take a picture of it. But these are the resources that I use. If you want to get the slides, take a picture. You can also download it. It's a lot easier. So if you want them, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Let me know that you want the slides, and I'll email you a link to download them. Full page, full color, very easy to read. So that's my LinkedIn account. Feel free to. That concludes that. I think that's the last one. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Could I request my colleague Ali, which is the Secretary of MAP, to arrange for the questions for this session?
Can we have the lights on, please?
So Ali will make it easier for you to pick the question.
Okay.
Yeah. We have the mic and the lights, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Dr. P. We just have, I think some of the slides are very revelatory. They give you a lot of revelation as to what's really happening with top 10s. But the main thrust of this session today will be the question and answers. जो भी आपके ज़हन में सवालात हैं वो ज़रूर पूछिए, because if you ask those questions, they will not only help you, but I think they will also help other participants. So feel free to ask questions.
This is Uwais Khan from EFU General Insurance, and my question is in respect of insurance. Insurance penetration remains very low in this region. According to the most recent world map of microinsurance, a very nominal share of population is covered by some form of microinsurance, leaving a significant share of the population unserved and potentially exposed to catastrophic risk. Additionally, low levels of financial literacy and trust in insurance companies are also creating a problem in this regard. So, what would be your thoughts to overcome the challenges in respect of digital transformation? Thank you.
That's a different question for me to answer, because I'm I'm not a financial expert, but to me it boils down to education. Now there might be a number of reasons why there is underinsurance or financial literacy. It could be that people are not interested in, or it could be that people don't know that they should be interested in this. If they don't know that they should be interested in this, then they need to be educated. Right? And, I have an example from Malaysia. I work with the military in Malaysia on a different project. But one of the issues that they have is that many of the lower ranked soldiers take up huge loans through their own cooperatives. And when they take up these loans, then the installments will be taken out of their pay package. So they buy washing machines, they buy holidays, they buy gold and whatever, on loan through those co-ops. And then the co-ops will claw back the money from the sales, from their paycheck. And some of these soldiers have a paycheck in the end of just 5 ringgit. So that's what $1 US. That's the minimum that they have to be paid. The rest is gone in repaying those loans. And some of those soldiers who got into these financial troubles of not being able to buy food for their family, they killed themselves. So they committed suicide because they could not provide for their families. So those are extreme cases of financial illiteracy. So what the military did was they went through a campaign of mandatorily educating every rank and file into how important it is for their financial future to save, to take proper financial management. So they went through education. So they made it mandatory. Nowadays, and that has just started in Malaysian schools, financial education is in schools as well. It's taught in schools. Financial literacy. Maybe only the basics, but at least in a way that's not. Malaysia has a very high rate of credit card debts as well, unpaid credit cards. So again, it comes down to education. People just buy. I have to pay later. If I don't pay, never mind. And so that is now being taught in schools as well. So the government went the education part. So big area, excuse me, of the military. Everybody in the military is being educated. Everybody in schools is not being educated. And some other companies or some other areas will also spread out. So I think that's the way of going. If you can't reach them face to face, then you could reach them to digital channels. Apps would be one way. Gamification, we had this earlier actually. So you could, maybe not you, or maybe your insurance company, head company, or maybe through government organizations, you could create games that people can play on their handphone that teach them sublimely financial literacy. So where they have to save certain credits in order to unlock other levels, stuff like that. So that hopefully will then overcome the problem that you have in reaching those people. But I would use digital channels to educate.
And your thoughts would be appreciated if you could kindly also elaborate a point that in fact
as I said earlier, that insurance penetration remains very low in this region. According to the most recent world map of microinsurance, a very nominal share of population is covered through in this regard. So how could we really improve this penetration with the help of digital transformation?
Education. Use digital means digital channels to reach people, to tell them about the need for it. You got to tell them why they need to be insured. There are.
I think it's awareness. I've been associated with the insurance industry too. I think the major issue is awareness. Majority of people don't understand what insurance is all about. When they do, there are a lot of mis-selling associated with it. So when they come to you, eventually they ended up leaving you. So there's another factor. So the reason that your penetration is 0.05% in Pakistan, because the awareness is not there. And the people who are aware, they've been bitten. They've been burned quite a few times. So the segment of the market doesn't know. People who know, who tried it, they ended up being missold.
Yeah. Other questions?
Good evening. My name is Teri Mahmood, and I sort of run my own business of copywriting. I do not design. I write ad copies. So one of the things that I've noticed is that the clients, when I work with Australian clients or even American or Canadian clients, they usually ask me to write direct copies. direct selling, no emotion or nothing. So what do you think should be the trend in the case of effectiveness of it in Pakistan? Should we be promoting direct selling when it comes to ad writing, digital ads only, not the video ads, the static ones?
Okay. You got to look at at the customer life cycle and where you would like to get them. Are you trying to create awareness for a particular brand, or are you trying to sell something, a particular product? There are different, or anything in between. So there are differences for it. Ad copy will come up if somebody goes to Google and searches for something. I guess that's the one you're referring to. So somebody will go to Google, type in some sort of search query, and then based on that search query, there will be a result, an ad shown, one ad or more. Now your ad has to answer that search query. That is the important part. So you have to provide good customer service for that particular searcher. If your ad copy is perceived as providing an answer to the query that the user has, then you have a high likelihood to get that click. Now, if that user is typing in a particular brand name and a model, so where to buy, whatever, ABC model 123, then they are ready to purchase. Then you can hard sell. Now, buy it here cheapest. Then they will probably click on it because they are ready to buy. But if they're in a research phase, then they may just look for something more generic. If you're then hard in your face, now buy it here, they're not ready for it. So then it has to be something that is a bit more soft. Not in your face marketing, it's more like interested in this, now come to our website, read more about it, educate yourself. So then, so it really depends on which part of the life cycle, of customer life cycle you are targeting or your client is targeting. So there's no hard and fast rule. But it boils down to personalized service. So if somebody is still researching, you have to provide copy for that. If somebody's ready to buy, you have to provide copy that addresses that. Does it kind of answer your question?
Dr. Peter, one question from my side. You've talked a lot about integrating social media apps, or the messaging apps, into business. I'm talking with respect to WhatsApp. Do you have any good examples of an organization that has integrated WhatsApp into its business model? The reason I ask that question is because, yes, WhatsApp is the most widely used messaging app in Pakistan, but there is a certain amount of skepticism when it comes to WhatsApp in business environment. Business leaders are still cautious about using WhatsApp as a business tool. So do you have a good example of an organization or a country where you have seen this WhatsApp being integrated into the business communication or business driveway for a business?
Absolutely. In Malaysia, I work with some telco providers, for example, large telco providers. They use WhatsApp to disseminate messages. Telecom Malaysia, for example, that's the big fixed line provider, government-owned or government-related company. They use WhatsApp, for example, to inform of any outages that happen in particular neighborhoods. So if they start to dig the road, they will send out the WhatsApp, whatever, half a day before or a day before. Please note, tomorrow we are going to be digging there. Your line might be interrupted from this hour to this hour. So that works well. So that keeps me informed. And that is through WhatsApp. I work with another telco. They also use this sometimes for marketing purposes, but that's not that successful. More for information purposes. There's a big online retailer. I don't know if you heard about Lazada. It's an online retailer. They have branches in Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Vietnam. So they also use WhatsApp to let customers know where their order is or what their order status is. And it is well received. What it is not well received for is for marketing, pure marketing purposes. So if I look at my WhatsApp and it's just another advertisement, I get annoyed. So for advertising purposes, it's not good, but for customer service, it's actually very good.
Any questions? Please.
Is there a downside to digital transformation? There's too much technology, and we've seen one example in the Boeing crash. So is there a blowback that one can possibly expect at some point?
we're still not quite sure. Well, at least I'm certainly not sure what caused the Boeing to crash, but it was likely a software glitch. So there was the software that it was the two crashes that happened was when the plane was ascending at a particular angle, and it seems that the software did not recognize that and did something that get the plane to fall. So I don't think it was due to digital transformation. It was a software issue that came out. But does digital transformation have a downside? I'm not sure. Now, if you ask some people what they think about machine learning and artificial intelligence, the artificial intelligence nowadays is already so good in terms of making predictions that human intervention is no longer required for quite a number of things. We talked about this in the morning as well a bit, but when it comes to, for example, human resources, I have a course, digital transformation of human resources. If you send in your CV to a company, a big company, the first read of the CV will be done by a machine, by an algorithm. It will scan through the resume and see which ones may be a fit and which ones are not. The ones that are fit go to one stack, and the ones that are not fitting will go to another one. Then the ones that fit will be invited for an interview. For many big companies nowadays, that interview is done by a robot. Voice. So it's not a chatbot. It's where you type, it's actually a robot. The robot will talk to you. The robot will make a decision whether you are a good fit or not. If you're a good fit, then you come onto a stack where you get actually your first human-to-human interaction. But everything before that is done by a machine. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? The good thing could be that it takes out the bias. So bias against women, bias against people of certain colors, of certain ethnic origins, and so on. The bad thing is the algorithm itself is based on machine learning. So if the person who trains the algorithm has a bias, then that person can put that bias into the algorithm. So it's no longer non-biased. That is the drawback. But that drawback is not based on the machine, it's based on the person who programs the machine. So it can go either way.
So it's still a case of garbage in and garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out, yeah.
My name is Naeem. I want to know how can we use social media to promote industrial product? Because most of the example you have given is fast-moving consumer good or consumer durable. Can we use the same principles to promote the industrial product as well?
Absolutely, because there is still going to be humans, at least for now, who will order your product. So you can still reach them through social media. It's going to be a small market, obviously, depending on how elusive your products are. But the decision makers, at least for now, are still humans. So that as long as humans are involved, you can use social media to get knowledge out or awareness out about your products. It's, as I said, the market is not as big as if you try to sell Coca-Cola or promote Coca-Cola. But the reach is still there, but very specialized. So the answer in short is that absolutely yes.
Questions? Last question, anyone? All right. I guess we bring the evening to a conclusion. I'd like to thank, on behalf of the Marketing Association of Pakistan, Dr. Frank Peter, who took his time out to come and address this tea session. I think one of the things that we have to remember is that in this limited period, Dr. Frank told us about the 10 trends that we are going to be seeing in the coming days, months, years, maximum couple of years. The question is, how do you integrate those trends into your business? If you just leave this room, for you that will nothing but just a theory. You will rehearse something and then you go back to doing things the way you are doing right now. Or the other thing is, you go back and you say to yourself, how am I going to integrate the knowledge that Dr. Frank gave us right now into our business models on a day-to-day basis? How do you go back and convince your management, or in case your bosses, that this is what we need to do? If you go back tomorrow and end up acting the same way as you are doing before this, then I think the utility of this session probably is somewhat limited. But once again, I'd like to thank Dr. Peter for taking this time out, coming down to Pakistan to address the tea talk, as we call it, for the Marketing Association of Pakistan. Thank you once again. Thank you very much.
It is a privilege, mine and Ali Habib's, to give Dr. Peter the plaque that we present on behalf of Marketing Association of Pakistan. We're really grateful for your presence here, and we're really grateful for this very informative talk that you.
It's been my great pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to serve tea.